evening. Happy Tuesday. I'm on my way down to Visalia, Kern County, baby, because I get to spend the night down there because I have an all-day mediation tomorrow. Construction law case. Took it on contingency. Hopefully there's a big payday involved. But you didn't tune in to hear about that. And I'm going to listen to this when I'm done to see if there's a lot of road noise. If there is, I'll probably wait till I get to my hotel, but that's going to be late as hell because it's a 4-hour trip from sunny Sacramento down to Visalia. Anyway, so I have spent the first almost 2 hours of this trip listening to a recording of the hearing. Now, I started off with, what's his name, who normally does a pretty good stream, or at least I found that he won't talk over it. What's his name? The guy who, Joshua Gray. This is not a public service. This is a public service, something like that. Anyway, he had some technical issues, I guess, so I switched over. Someone had recommended Tucson Police Suck, so I watched his version. Anyway, let's before I jump over to Tucson Police Suck, I noticed that the Joshua Gray one, he was already looking into the presiding judge's background, and she graduated from the University of Arizona Law School. Oh my, she must already be, they're all a cabal, they're all in it together, etc. And you can't trust anybody who's graduated from the University of Arizona School of Law. And I just thought to myself, I wonder what Lane Myers' quote wife end quote thinks about that, because didn't she graduate from the University of Arizona School of Law? And I also think it's interesting that even before the hearing, even before there's been anything substantively done on the motions, that he's already saying that the judge is biased against Lane Myers. Why is that? Well, it's because I think that Joshua Gray either knows or intuitively believes that Myers is going to lose this. Now, I personally don't understand why all Myers supporters have this odd presupposition that all the judges are going to find against Lane Myers, but magically the Court of Appeals is going to find in Myers' favors. The odds of that are low. We've been through this before. Like with Warden, I thought Warden had a pretty good appeal, and even though I thought his appeal was pretty good and the state's opposition to his appeal was pretty shit, I still gave Warden about a 20% chance at best of prevailing on appeal. I think, speaking of his appeal, I think the state's brief is due on his motion for en banc or reconsideration. I think it's due to the 29th, May 29th. So just FYI on the Warden thing. But anyway, Warden had, in my estimation, in my humble estimation, a very good argument and actual grounds for appeal, and the state shit the bed, I thought, not only at trial but at on the appeal stage, and still Warden lost. So like your odds of prevailing on appeal are much worse than your odds of prevailing at trial. Generally speaking, most cases on appeal most appeals are denied. And then trying to go from appeal to a state Supreme Court, well, that's a petition for writ of certiorari. You're no longer on appeal. You're on the discretion of that upper court to see whether or not they'll even review your file to maybe consider it, between the justices. And then from there to the United States Supreme Court, your odds of getting even to the stage where the justices are looking at your appeal to see if it's something that they want to, talk amongst each other on whether or not to actually, your petition, to see if they even want to look at your petition. I mean, it's super low. It's like 1 to 3%. I mean, it's insanely low. They hear like 60 or something like that cases a year, and they got like 8,000 cases that are petitioned to them. So but your odds just drop. Each level going up, your odds just drop dramatically. And you cannot, I know somebody in my comment section suggested that Lane Myers was going to appeal this to the Ninth Circuit Court of Appeals. You cannot do that. You can't appeal to a federal court. In theory, you can petition to the United States Supreme Court once you have exhausted your remedies in the state court system to have the United States Supreme Court hear a federal issue, i.e. a violation of the Constitution, but good luck, good luck. So I tune into Tucson Please Suck, and I'm not going to go through it verbatim, line for line, word for word, but here is my general gist and understanding. So the first thing that I got to hear was Lane Myers' argument for the motion to recuse. And it's the same argument essentially that he laid out on paper. It was just as terrible then as it is now. I thought that once again, Stiles, I think her name is, did a completely serviceable job, not exemplary, but completely serviceable job in rebutting it. But here's a key takeaway. That judge could have just said denied. The judge could have said denied because every single thing that you've presented to me is a decision that Judge Metcalf made, and your remedy for a decision that you don't like is to appeal it. But no, she actually went through and gave substantive findings of specific facts and law. What she did was she built a record that will withstand appeal. She took her time and she clarified everything. She took his appeal out from under him. He doesn't have, if there are grounds for appeal on that, I don't know what they are, because she was very thorough. And she even said, this, for your record, she knows it's going to get appealed, or she assumes it's going to get appealed, and she built a record for the appeal. So I don't think she's going to get overturned. I strongly suspect that her ruling will survive an appeal. So that's number one. Number two is that Lane Myers signed a plea agreement. And then he shit the bed and he didn't follow through, and so the plea was not accepted. So he signed it. He fully intended to plea today. Everybody's saying he's not going to plea. He signed a fucking plea agreement. Daddy was right. Give me my props. Go donate to my GoFundMe or my G-String account or whatever. Click on my link for NordVPN. Whatever it is, I don't fucking care. But give me my props. I told you. I strongly suspected that he would accept a plea. And also I strongly suggested that Stiles would make a plea offer. And the plea offer was within the realm of what I expected. He'd plead to one charge in one case and one charge in another case. I think he pled to charge like 14 on the first case, stalking, and the harassment, what do you call it? Aggravated harassment, whatever that was. No. Yeah, aggravated harassment. Something like aggravated harassment. Charge 1 on the second one. In the second case. And that's well within what I anticipated he would be pleading to. Well within. I figured it'd be like 1 or 2 charges because the state could get pretty much what they wanted and really just keep him the fuck away from the victim, right? And so that's important. Another thing that I think is important is that Lane Myers said he's taking the deal because his elbow counsel, his advisory counsel recommended it. Now, for everybody who is shitting all over the previous public defender, the new public defender, the one Lane wanted, everybody told me this is the public defender that Lane actually wanted. Well, he's got him. And what does this guy want Lane to do? Plea. Why? Because it was a good deal. because this elbow counsel sees what he's coming up against and is able to say, look, Lane, you're probably going to get effed. If I had to bet, if I was in Vegas and I had to bet, I'd bet you're going to get effed. You're not likable. A jury isn't going to like you. That you fucking recorded every goddamn thing you did. You're going to get effed. You're going to get effed. I know that's what his lawyer told him, not because his lawyer is scared to go to trial, but because his lawyer is going to give him good advice. Look, it's in your best interest to take a plea, because if you go to trial, you're almost certain, there's no guarantees in life, but you're almost certain to get a worse deal, to get a worse conviction at trial. So that's important. Another thing that's important is that once again, a judge, so literally every single attorney that Lane Myers has had, every judge Lane Myers has been in front of, has completely written off his 1A argument. I mean, I understand that the first attorney made an attempt, but what are you gonna do? The first attorney was like, look, man, even if this is the way it's written, then I would have to find my client guilty. Yeah. Really what all Lane has hoping for is that either the prosecution shits the bed or the jury commits a huge fucking mistake. Maybe Lane Myers gets a very sympathetic jury who wants to do jury nullification because they think that administrators at law schools should get fucking harassed. Maybe that's the case. But I mean, you don't want to bank on those odds. So that's important to remember. Another thing is that if you listen to the judge when she's going through her colloquy, where she's asking him about, do you agree that it's harassment, this and that? The judge is like, what? Well, don't you think it's reasonable that she would feel harassed by this? The judge is telegraphing what the judge expects to be found at trial. That the things you did are fucking harassing, homeboy. Like, you were harassing her. He threw out the oath. The judge said, just because you sign an oath doesn't mean you've consented to be harassed. Well, I mean, this isn't even up for debate. The judge just, without even researching it, the judge knows. And came to the same conclusion that every other fucking judge that's looked at it came to. Every other judge. Like, people are like, why do you hate Lane Myers? I don't hate Lane Myers. Every single judge that this gets in front of keeps saying the same thing. Why don't you fucking idiots listen? It's not a license to harass someone. Just because you're a government employee doesn't mean you're entitled to get harassed. It's insane. It's insane. And the judge also oh yeah, it's a publicly available number. Yeah, but the judge made the distinction. You took it from where it was and you put it in one of your videos, implying that because of the context of the video and because you're showing it to your audience who understands the context, that you know or should know that they're going to call and harass her on your behalf. It's baked into the pie. It's understood. They know the context. They know she's a bad person, that you think she's a bad person. You're holding her out to be a bad person. And so it's baked into the pie that if you put her phone number out there, if you display it in your video and say, this is the bad person and here's her number, that they're going to call on your behalf. I mean, this isn't rocket science. If you can't follow these dots, then you're literally below average IQ. Like maybe 1 or 2 standard deviations below. You're probably 85. I'd say you're probably about an 85 IQ or less. If you can't understand these simple dots, if you can't understand why every attorney who looks at it, with the possible exception of Eli, who's barely an attorney, I'd maybe trust him with a personal injury case, but I wouldn't trust him with anything else. But every attorney this gets in front of is like, sorry, dude, you're fucked. Take the plea. Sorry. Every attorney, every judge, harassment. Sorry. Oh, this isn't a First Amendment violation. Sorry. No idea what you're fucking on about, homeboy. your goose is cooked. I mean, it could always change. His luck could change, and trial might be a godsend for him, but so I mean, these are real issues. Like, it was a good deal. It was a good deal. He went from a potential maximum of 43 years and a minimum of 4 years to, like, I think a minimum of with no, you can't start off on probation. You're going to the Who Scout. He is potentially facing that, as opposed to potentially facing, I think, what it was, 2 to 4.5 years, something like that, with the possibility of probation from the get. So I mean, like there's just no comparison. There's just no comparison. And see, the thing is that, like, I know he asked. He's like, well, isn't the minimum 4 years if I go to trial, and so the minimum is less by a trial than the maximum is on the plea deal, and that's misleading, because to get the minimum at trial, the judge is going to have to the sentencing judge is going to have to find a whole shit ton of mitigating factors, a whole shit ton. But there's already baked into this pie. There's already a whole bunch of exacerbating factors, like the sheer number of times that he did it, his complete lack of empathy towards the victim, his complete lack of feeling of guilt or remorse. I mean, there's already aggravating circumstances. So I mean, your odds of getting pushed up at sentencing are better than your odds of getting pushed down. But if he had pled, if he had looked the judge in the eye and said, you know what, Your Honor, I feel terrible for the heartbreak and the suffering and anguish that I've caused the victim, whether he believed it or not, I feel terrible for it. I repent for it. I'd like to make amends for it. I understand there's no way I could do it. I'm throwing myself at the mercy of the court, throwing myself at the mercy of the victim. I hope that one day she'll forgive me. I intend to make amends, and I'm gonna. I found Jesus while I was in jail, and I'm living a good life, and Hail Mary, full of grace, all that shit. If he did that, whether he believed it or not, that'd be a mitigating factor. That's something that the court could take into consideration. Your Honor, while I was in jail and doing all the research to prepare for my trial, I realized that I was wrong and my understanding of the law was wrong. And you know what? I feel bad that my understanding of the law was wrong. And I'm sorry. I really am sorry. I thought I had a right to do it. I've learned that I don't. And I've learned, I've seen the pleadings of the terrible place I put this poor woman in who didn't deserve it, whether he believed it or not. So, coulda, woulda, shoulda, didn't. He didn't take the plea deal. According to Stiles, that plea deal's gone. It's been revoked. It's no longer on the table. Does that mean that he can't get that deal or a better deal? No. I mean, it's still possible. But the thing is, it can go one of two ways. If Stiles' calendar's full and she has more pressing cases, which, I mean, considering that he's facing a maximum of 43 years, I don't know that there's a lot more pressing cases out there. Murder cases, maybe, but that's a hefty sentence that he's potentially looking at. Oh, and apparently he already has prior felonies, plural. So for those of you who are throwing out all this bullshit about Myers' undefeated wins in court, except for those felonies, multiple, plural felonies. So I mean, I can't tell you exactly what she'll do. It's not out of the question that she won't give the same deal or a better deal again. But it's also not outside of the realm of possibility that ship has sailed. That, because I've seen it go both ways. I mean, I haven't done a lot of criminal work, but I've seen it go both ways. I had one guy who I represented him on 5 charges. He ended up pleading to 2 charges that weren't 2 of the ones that were mine, out of 13. 2 that the public defender was representing him on. And so I've had to go that way. But I've also been involved in a case that I wasn't the attorney of record on, but I did some of the motion work and stuff on, where the flurry of motions and all the pushing and rejecting plea deals and thinking that we were going to bully the prosecutor into giving us a better deal didn't work. And we tried for a few last minute deals, once we saw it was headed to trial, but that ship had sailed, and it went to trial, and the guy didn't have unfortunately the guy didn't have a defense. It wasn't me, it wasn't my client. I just did some work on it, but I've seen it go both ways, man. I've seen it go both ways. So it's sad. I'm sad that Lane did not take the deal, that he could not say what he needed to say to get the deal taken. The reason why they require that admission of guilt is it takes the ability to appeal away. I mean, it would just completely cut out all of his appeal possibilities, at least for the conviction part. And so, I mean, I can understand why they do it, and I'm not saying they shouldn't do it, but they're going to do it their way, and Lane Myers doesn't get to tell them how they're going to conduct their business in the courtroom. But that presiding judge, she was dead certain that she was not going to let him get out of there with an appealable issue unless he goes to trial, and then he can have all the appeals he wants within the confines of Arizona law. So that's my 2 cents. It was a sad day that his appeal was denied. It was that his plea was not taken. That the judge refused to take his plea. It was completely predictable that he was going to lose on his motion to recuse. And I got to tell you, it's almost certain that his motion for a new bond hearing is going to get denied. I don't think that Metcalf's going to play with him anymore. That's my best guess, my best intuition. And yeah, it's the same appealable issue if Metcalf denies the hearing, or if Metcalf denies the bond after the hearing. It's the same issue. It's just easier actually to withstand an appeal if he denies the new hearing, because that's just pure judge discretion, whereas there actually is evidence that the court can review in the appeal if there is a new evidentiary hearing on the bond issue or the bail issue. So my new prediction is that Metcalf will deny the motion for a rehearing on bail, and any subsequent my prediction is any subsequent offers that Stiles makes for pleas are going to be less awesome for Myers, and if it goes to trial, I'm going to guess that he gets convicted on at least all the harassment counts. I'm not entirely sure about the stalking ones, but at least on the harassment and the aggravated harassment account charges, I think he'll get convicted on those. And I think he'll get a lot more time in prison than if he had taken the plea. Which I don't take any joy in, by the way. I absolutely do not take any joy in that prospect. I don't like anybody going to jail or prison for a minute longer than they have to. And I think he's gonna. Anyway, that's it. That's all I got for you today. Thanks for watching, and have a great evening.